This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice. Please seek a medical professional or healthcare provider if you're seeking any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers! Cool. Shop our merch.
Yes.
Right.
Aren't they so cute? We have our little flamingo.
Camera focus.
And then we have our little funny medicine podcast.
Yeah, it comes in these two colors.
Yes. They're actually really cute.
And they really work. Honestly, they are Florida tested. They work.
If you know the heat in Florida, then you know what we're talking about.
And they come with lids. I just chose not to put the lid on right now, but they come with lids.
Speaking of Florida, you're going to see a little trend.
That was a good transition.
You like it?
Hell yeah. Nice. Anyway, let's introduce ourselves first before we go into that.
My name is Evie.
I'm Julie.
And this is our funny medicine podcast.
And today's episode is talking about Florida.
Polio.
Exactly.
So, since Florida decided to announce that they want to end the mandate on vaccines, we thought that it would be nice to just give a little bit of more insight on each and every disease
At
that
least we're going to try
would
to
be protected with a vaccine.
Exactly. So instead of being a political podcast, because that is not what this is, nor who we are, we like to we like to present the facts, right? Instead of going off on a political tangent, we're not going to do that. This is not the space for that.
Yes.
This is the space to talk about medicine.
Yes.
To talk about facts. And polio, honestly.
And we lead with education.
Exactly. And polio is honestly a very interesting topic. Okay? Very, very interesting topic.
Heavy on the history, which I think is great.
And it's also kind of why people have forgotten about its seriousness.
Yeah.
You know, because the vaccine was and is very effective at keeping it at bay because it is not fully eradicated like smallpox.
Yeah.
So it does still linger around. It is found in some pockets in the world, and the world every day is smaller and smaller because planes exist, travel exists. You can't just be like, well, it exists in that part of the world, so it's never going to get to me. I think Wuhan changed that in 2020.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can't
Just
rely
everything.
on that. Viruses,
I mean, malaria is now like West Nile.
viruses don't care about borders.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't see borders.
Exactly.
It goes where it goes.
Where it goes, exactly.
And people just kind of like don't realize that.
I don't think that it's so much that they don't realize that. I think that they are ignorant.
Yeah.
And they choose to not believe that
Yeah.
can happen.
And look, I am all for you not knowing these things. These things are kind of hard to understand.
Yeah.
But that's where we come in.
Yeah.
Okay? We like to just talk about these things and we break it down as Barney style as we can. All of these episodes, all of these topics. That's the whole point, for you not to be scared of learning about these things. So you could actually like approach it and not be listening to somebody that doesn't know about it but they made it sound understandable, right? No, we're going to make it sound understandable and just bring in our personalities and just some fun into it as well as we talk about it. Because that's just what this is. This is a conversation. So let's have a conversation about polio.
Let's
Let's do it.
So let's have a conversation about polio.
Very animated today.
I love it.
All right.
So let's talk about polio. All right. So
It kind of goes good with spooky season.
yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because this is
October.
wow. I can't believe that.
I can't believe it. We're already,
spooky season.
we're in the burr months.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
man. Spooky season. Welcome. I love this season. Anyway,
This is Julie's season.
freaking love it. Although I live in Miami and it sucks, but anyways.
Yeah, we don't have the season here.
It's in my it's
in
in
your
my
heart.
and in my office. I
Yeah.
live in spooky season.
All right, so let's start off with a little bit of an introduction. Polio, for short, poliomyelitis, is a highly infectious disease caused by the polio virus. And it mainly affects children and invades the nervous system, causing paralysis in some cases. polio was once among the most feared illnesses in the world, especially for parents in the mid 20th century.
Yeah.
And it primarily strikes young children under 5 years old and can cause sudden permanent paralysis by attacking the nerve cells in the spinal cord and the brain. In the pre-vaccine era, summer was polio season. In the summer, playgrounds were empty, swimming pools were closed, and communities were they tried to halt its spread. Thanks to effective vaccines, polio has been eliminated in most of the world, and global cases have dropped by over 99% since the 1980s.
That's huge.
When have we ever said such a percentage?
Yep.
99% since the 1980s. That was just 40 years ago.
Incredible.
Yeah. Yet recent events such as polio virus traces detected in New York and London in wastewater in 2022 remind us that polio isn't entirely history. And in this overview, we're going to explore what polio is and its causes and the symptoms, how it was conquered by science, and why continued vigilance is needed.
Yep.
So, what is polio exactly? Polio is a virus. It is a viral disease specifically caused by the polio virus, a tiny virus that invades the human digestive tract and can spread to the nervous system. It spreads person to person, mainly through fecal oral route, meaning contaminated hands, water, or food carrying the virus from the infected person's stool or their poop. Okay. In rare cases, what?
I just I'm thinking of what to put because I've been putting on YouTube. You got to check out like our videos.
I know.
I've been putting like more graphics, more images and whatever. Yeah. So it's like now with the poop, I'm like.
Just a little emoji.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the poop emoji. Like.
Yes. So in rare cases, it can spread via droplets from a cough or a sneeze. Once allowed, the polio virus multiplies in the intestines and can enter the bloodstream, eventually attacking your nerve cells in the spinal cord and in the brain that controls your muscles. Highly contagious, polio thrives in areas with poor sanitation. It can pass silently through a community by unwashed hands or impure water. And in fact, an infected person can shed the virus and infect others, even though they have no symptoms themselves. Before the vaccines, polio struck in summertime waves, earning the name infantile paralysis for its preference for young victims. Can you imagine?
No, I can't. Having kids, we're both moms. And I can't even imagine what that is.
And it's funny how obviously during the summer, it's a lot more contagious and the kids are out and playing and there's a lot of things that happen in the summer that would increase a risk of infection or being contagious. But can you imagine not going to the playground, not going to the pool because because you are so afraid that your child is gonna get polio.
And that was back then that a lot of families didn't travel as much as they travel now. Now it's like summertime. It's time to travel, go to the beach, go to Disney.
Yes, it did. And when Florida announced that it wanted to end that mandate on vaccinations, the first thing I thought about was playgrounds are going to be empty. No one's going to be going to the beach.
I really wonder how lobbyists, like Disney lobbyists, God, Disney has deep pockets. They need to be sending out their lobbyists out there.
They are.
They have to, because this is going to cause
pretty sure Disney's in
problems.
Support of the vaccines.
I don't see how not.
I'm not sure. I haven't read up.
Yeah, no. This is totally our talks and opinions, but I can only imagine that they must be concerned.
Yes, definitely. Now, the term poliomyelitis, just for information, it comes from the Greek word for gray marrow inflammation, referring to the virus's damage to the gray matter of the spinal cord, which is why we see that muscle weakness. So symptoms and impact on the body. One frightening aspect of polio is that most infections are silent. Up to 90% of people who catch polio virus have no symptoms or only mild flu-like illnesses, so that the disease often spreads undetected. About 1 in 4 infected individuals develop symptoms like fever, fatigue, headache, nausea, sore throat, or stomach pain, and that's just a few days, and then it resolves on its own, it could be anything with those symptoms. Yeah. These are minor symptoms that can resemble a common viral infection and typically go away without lasting effects. However, a small fraction of cases progress to that dreaded serious phase. Roughly 1 in 200, that's a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Roughly 1 in 200 infected people, some sources say as few as 1 in 1,000 for certain viral strains, suffer paralytic polio, where the virus attacks the spinal cord and causes weakness or paralysis in the limbs. This paralysis usually affects the legs, leading to the withered limbs or being limp, and can set in with an alarming speed, sometimes within hours of the first symptoms. Paralysis from polio is usually permanent. This is not transient. This is a permanent paralysis, as the virus destroys motor nerve cells that do not regenerate. Patients lose the ability to move affected muscles. Many survivors need leg braces, crutches, or wheelchairs for life in the aftermath. Now, the most severe danger is if the paralysis in polio, the paralyzed muscles used for breathing also become affected. Now, involvement of the diaphragm, which is that muscle that helps you breathe, yes, and the chest muscles that also help you breathe.
Yeah.
If this is affected by the polio virus, then this can lead to respiratory failure. This is why polio can be deadly. Among patients with paralysis, 5 to 10% die because they can't breathe when those muscles become immobilized. Now, in the pre-ventilator era, this often meant a sudden suffocation. It's a key reason why polio was so feared. A child might develop only fever and sore throat, and within days be unable to move or even breathe on their own. Days.
Yeah.
Even survivors were not always in the clear after recovery. Decades later, some develop post-polio syndrome, which is a condition with renewed muscle weakness, fatigue, pain that strikes 25 to 40% of polio survivors many years after the initial illness. Imagine being traumatized, surviving that paralysis, living with the complications of this, and then later on, you have a 25 to 40% chance of having a post-polio syndrome.
That's so freaking scary.
So scary.
I don't want to take that 1 in 200 chance. I don't. Because 1 in 200 is honestly not that small.
No, it's not. It is not. Post-polio syndrome is not a new infection, but a late effect thought to stem from overworked motor neurons that survived the original polio. While not life-threatening, it can significantly impair adult survivors' mobility and their quality of life 30 plus years after the original polio infection.
So that's terrifying.
Yeah.
30 plus years later.
First of all, I can't imagine just living with that fear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just that knowing that in, I don't know, 30 plus years later, I might have these symptoms again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's insane to me. Just living with that fear constantly.
Yeah.
Or putting your child at risk of that.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Anyway. All right. So treatment and the iron lung. Okay. So a little bit of history here because of course polio is now a very rare disease, at least right now, and at least here in the US, but it came from a very, very heavy history. So for most viral diseases, we rely on the body's immune system to clear the infection. Polio has no cure. Once the virus invades the nervous system, doctors can only provide supportive care and hope that the patient recovers. During the acute illness, treatment focuses on relieving symptoms and preventing complications. That includes bed rest, pain relievers, hot packs or heating pads to ease muscle pain and spasms, and careful nursing care. Physical therapy is often used to help paralyzed limbs retain some motility. And, antispasmodic drugs can be given to relax painfully tight muscles. These measures can improve comfort and function, but they cannot reverse paralysis. So in truth, medical care had little power over polio before vaccine. Doctors could only support the patient's breathing, ease pain, and hope for the best. A young polio patient in the 1950s inside an iron lung, which is a large metal tank respirator that used negative pressure to mechanically breathe for these paralyzed patients. These life-saving devices kept many polio victims alive until they could hopefully breathe on their own again. In the mid-20th century, one iconic medical device became synonymous with polio care. This was a large mechanical respirator that saved the lives of patients whose breathing muscles were paralyzed. Essentially, it's a big metal cylinder that enclosed the patient's body with only their head sticking out. An iron lung worked by changing air pressure to force the lungs to inflate and deflate. And in its peak usage in the 1950s, the iron lung was a common sight in polio wards, and a frightening one. In the US, polio epidemic year in 1952, a record 57,628 cases were reported, and many patients needed artificial respiration.
That's a lot of kids.
A lot of people, you know. By 1959, about 1,200 Americans were dependent on iron lungs to breathe. Patients would lie inside these noisy metal tanks for weeks or months, and some, unfortunately, needed them for life. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see a photo of an iron lung from then. A mirror above the patient's head allowed them to see the world around them, and caregivers accessed the patient through portholes on the side of the machine. The first time doctors used an iron lung in 1928 on a young polio patient, her breathing improved within minutes. She even asked for ice cream to relieve the relief and tears of her caregivers, because I can't even freaking put myself in the mental space as a parent for that. I can't.
I got chills.
Yeah, no, I can't. I can't. So the iron lung was truly a lifesaver. Without it, patients with chest paralysis would almost certainly die. It's often cited as a medical marvel made of metal that kept polio victims alive until they could breathe on their own. Thankfully, due to vaccines, such scenes are now relics of history. Today, these tanks of respirators are virtually obsolete. In fact, as of 2017, only 3 people in the US still use the iron lung, down from 1,200 in 1959. Modern intensive care ventilators and near eradication of polio itself have replaced them. Nonetheless, the iron lung remains a powerful reminder of polio's toll and the lengths medicine went to in combating it before vaccines were available. But people tend to forget history.
And if you really think about it, okay, let's just say at 1950s, it was, what was the year?
1952 was the epidemic year, and then in 59,
So in 2022, that would be 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, in 2002, that would be 50 years.
Yep.
And now we are in 2025.
Yeah.
Right. So that is, people now are in their 70s, probably.
If they were born like in the height of it,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about the parents. The parents of these people were probably 20 plus years, so probably not alive today.
Yep.
I feel like they would be rolling in their graves.
I can't even.
If they saw that people were not getting this vaccine.
It's insane. It's insane.
And again, we are so dependent on herd immunity, and so really, like, what's the word I'm looking for when you're like spoiled? We're spoiled. We're spoiled by herd immunity.
Yeah.
And now everyone that doesn't vaccinate, they're like, well, we don't see it anymore because everyone else has been vaccinated.
Exactly.
That does not protect you 100%. And also, you're kind of a POS for doing that.
100%.
Right? Because at the end of the day, even though, yes, herd immunity has protected us for a really long time, now with the growing numbers of people that are not vaccinating, that is going to diminish little by little, and we will start seeing all of this again. I sometimes ask myself, if people don't think in the long run, could you have maybe used this vaccination, which has clearly shown that it works, right, to save the future children that might be affected by this? I know that's like a long thought process, and I'm sure that the person that, you know, is like listening to this and maybe doesn't vaccinate their children for X, Y, Z reasons is probably just like, I don't really care about what's going to happen in the future, right?
You can't possibly care if you
don't care now. It doesn't. So it's just, but to me, I don't think, you know, these certain individuals understand the effects that that's going to have down the line for a lot of older generations, like probably even your parents, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
They just can't. The unfortunate part is that these people are the type of people that they need to like see it to believe it type of thing. But yet again, they have other beliefs. There's a very big.
Like, why do you want to see that to believe that?
No, but
like, do you really want to see a child paralyzed? Because I've seen it. And trust me, I will give the vaccine so that my kid never has polio. And you know what's the crazy effed up thing about it? Is that even though I'm vaccinated, my kids are vaccinated, and my child is vaccinated, that does not mean that they can't get polio.
Exactly.
Which is a very common misconception, because I think that there was someone that commented on one of our posts, well, why do you care so much about
other
us not
people
vaccinating, right? Like, you're vaccinated, you're not the problem. It's us people that are, and I'm like, it's not, wrong.
That's not how it works.
That's not how it works. And it just goes to show how much lack of education there is out there. Oh man, I'm gonna calm down. Because I can call up.
This is what people love.
Yeah.
You're getting upset and riled up about this.
Large sigh. Chugs the drink.
Exactly. That's why I think we're drinking in this episode, because it's like, oh my God, other than technical issues that we've had throughout, it's just, this is something. Well, I, as like social media managing, and now you've become more involved in this too now with, check her out. You should follow her if you're not.
I finally have a social, guys.
Do it. And she's a lot more involved now. She's responding to people and all that. So she's here. Anyway.
It's not because I didn't want to before. It's just, Jules knows this. I was just not big into the socials world. And I finally took the step. I'm finally getting more involved. And
you have this strong motivation, mostly because of the unfortunate shit that's happening right now.
Yes, exactly. We live in a very weird time in medicine, unfortunately.
So that has like
sad time.
pushed you to
exactly.
come out here. So you're gonna see
her
really
a lot more. Julie has been wanting me to get on socials for a really long time, and I really felt like it just wasn't the right time for me before. And you can probably take a snippet of this and make it its own post.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the right time for me. And I really feel that now more than ever, physicians, leaders in the healthcare world, we really need to get our phones out and come out and address all this misinformation, because it's not about my social. I have a full-time job. Like, I don't make
zero money
income
out of that
from this, However, I do want more physicians to come out of this and post online, attack misinformation, because unfortunately there's more misinformation than there is accurate information online. And maybe I said that the wrong way. I mean like mainly in social media. There's just a lot of people out there that are unfortunately not educated in this world of healthcare.
Right.
And they just kind of say what other people say. So it's like this game of telephone. Like, some person said this, and then this person said that, and then this person said that.
And there's a lot of marketing behind it too.
Yes.
There's a lot of marketing behind it too. And there's a lot of people that they get traction, and then they get paid by this traction that they get.
Yeah, they're chasing the clout.
Exactly.
And they're getting paid.
Keep on with this misinformation route and this whatever it is that gave them claim to fame and got them paid, and then they're going to keep going.
And they create a platform.
Exactly.
So for the sake of the platform, they'll keep going even though they probably know they're wrong.
Well, you had a comment and you responded greatly back to them that this person, she went ahead and cited 2 doctors.
Physicians.
Just so this is abundantly clear and doesn't get skewed or taken out of context, let me give some summaries on these 2 individuals that we are going to be talking about a little further. Just summary to clarify. This Dr. Paul Norman Thomas, in summary, his license in Oregon State was suspended and not revoked, but it was because he agreed to restrictions on what medical work he could perform, and it was acute care only, no vaccine consultation, no patient-based research during the investigation. His licenses elsewhere, for example in Washington, have been suspended based on Oregon's disciplinary actions. Can use legal challenges, but as of the last public record, he has not regained full unrestricted medical license in Oregon. All of this is public record, and you could see the links of where I gathered this information on our YouTube as well. And like I said, it's public legal information. Now on the following individual, which is Dr. John Thomas Littell, since he's in Florida, things are a little different. In summary with him, his state medical license in Florida now remains active and clear with no revocation or suspension shown. His board certification, abbreviated ABFM, was revoked or / rescinded in 2023 for alleged quote unquote misinformation, but he is appealing and may have temporary reinstatement of that. The critical actions against him were related to board certification and not his basic license to practice medicine, but that is as far as public records show, which is what I have access to, and that is what we are talking about here. Due to this quote unquote misinformation, he went through these legal issues with his license, as well as a previous doctor that I had mentioned and we will be mentioning here going forward in the episode. Again, all of this is public record and it can be easily found and accessed anywhere on the web if you're here on the States. But again, I have also listed the links from where I found these public records about their current stances with their licenses, which you can see on YouTube. It will be listed in the sources description portion and also on screen on the actual video. Thanks everyone. And if you have questions, of course, let us know.
I couldn't believe when she sourced those physicians. I'm like, these two? Out of all the physicians in this world, these two are the one that you wanted to clap back at me with?
It's what happened with Wakefield, though.
Yes, and Wakefield still, till this day, makes a lot of income going on podcasts and interviews.
Exactly.
Yes.
So she quoted them.
And yes, and just reference them, like, you should check them out. Actually, no thank you. You lost me at them.
Yeah.
It was like, we're arguing, and then boom, mention that. I'm like, you lost me.
Yeah, that's it.
It was like, it's clearly, you can't fight stupid.
Clearly, we're not getting anywhere near.
I still responded, right? Because again, at the end of the day, I think this was an unfortunate situation because it sounded like she was a parent that maybe suffered some sort of vaccine complication. And then unfortunately, it was perpetuated by these two, probably like these two people that she follows, these two physicians.
She went down a rabbit hole.
And then it's unfortunate. And that's why I tried to like come at it. I was like, I'm going to come at it as like an educational view or, take it as a learning opportunity.
I came at it like a whole different angle.
Yeah. Pitbull. If you haven't checked out our episode where I call her a pitbull, she's a pitbull. I am the Labrador here. So
her response was so different to mine in the same thread.
Because it's like at the end of the day.
I know. But she was trying to get to that point of like.
I thought that she was being a little like snippy.
That's what I'm saying.
She was being. Which I don't think that's like
it's
the
not
first.
Appropriate.
Oh look, another podcast spouting off nonsense. And I answered. I was like, "Hi, I'm the doctor spouting off that nonsense." But instead of like having this whole entire argument, let's learn. And you know what? Maybe I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt.
Well, she didn't answer back.
Yeah, no, she didn't answer back. But I don't know if maybe she didn't know. But it's just things to open your eyes, right? The point,
but you said it right there. They're always like, open your eyes. You're so brainwashed and this and that. I'm like, but you guys are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
On fringe things. Yeah. On things that don't even make any sense. Things that are discredited, obvious and apparently discredited. Mm-hmm. And then you guys are like saying, open your eyes. I am. My eyes are open. Look at what happened to them.
Yeah. And let me just state this too. Just because there's physicians out there that do a different schedule, let me tell you, I've had parents wanting to do different schedules.
AKA, she's a pediatrician.
Yes. For those of you that don't know who I am, I'm a pediatrician. So there are parents that come to me with fear and they want an alternate schedule. The first thing I tell them is that is not advised and that is not recommended and that you should highly consider vaccinating with the current schedule, because that's the data that we have to make sure that your child is as protected as life and science allows, right?
As possible, yeah.
Yes. And then they, for some reason, still want to vaccinate on a different schedule. Okay, I don't make income from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The best way that I can help you is by educating you. But my love, I'm not going to write a book and say, I had an alternate schedule and this patient survived. So that means that every other patient can benefit from an altered schedule, which is what these pediatricians did. They created another schedule because they had some alternate schedule and said that it was perfectly safe. And parents believe that that is safe. And that is not true. And that's how data gets misinterpreted. So that's how what these people do and write down gets misinterpreted. Just because your patients survived does not mean that it will happen to another patient.
That's a small sample size, and it's also an incorrect sample because it's not even
That's not a study. That's not even a study.
Exactly.
You know?
That's what it is. Like, you need to conduct
took the risk,
an appropriate study. That's not a study.
Yeah, you took the risk of recommending that for your patients, okay? And that's what happened. However, you lost your license because you put a lot of your patients at risk for not just the vaccination schedule, a lot of other things with these two physicians. But yeah, I mean, what can I tell you? I'd rather believe this one physician that like created the schedule on like this book or whatever than all the data that we've accumulated on all of this.
Well, she kind of like stopped because she kept on. She kept on and kept on. And that's when I'm like, you know what? Let me go ahead and speak your language. Since you like all things fringe, let's go ahead and talk about necropolitics there. Go ahead and see if maybe you fit that very creepy criteria.
Yeah.
Didn't respond back. I'm like, oh, so now I spoke your language. So now it's kind of like, oh crap, what's happening?
Yeah.
I understand there are many things. The government is not the good guy, is not perfect. You just got to use your common sense and look at polio, back to polio, as a perfect example of this.
Yeah.
It worked.
And just one example, just one
out of all the vaccines.
Yeah, out of many amazing examples.
Exactly. But this is a really good highlight of like how we haven't seen these horrible trends and the iron lung, paralyzed children and all that since all the way back then because vaccines worked. This is like physical evidence that something worked. Why are we so against it? Anyway, so continuing this, talking about the vaccine revolution. Salk and Sabin changed the world. So by the early 1950s, polio was, like we were saying, it was paralyzing or even killing 500,000 people worldwide each year. With no cure, a vaccine was the holy grail to stop this crippling disease. The breakthrough came in 1955 when Dr. Jonas Salk introduced the first effective polio vaccine. Salk's vaccine was an inactivated, or in other words, killed polio virus vaccine, and that's identified as an IPV, given by injection. In massive field trials, it proved remarkably successful. After mass vaccination began, cases in the United States plummeted from about 58,000 in 1952 to 5,600 in 1957. It's black and white right there, man.
58 to 5.
Anyway.
58 to 5.
It's just... And then just a few hundred by the early 1960s. The Salk vaccine was an absolute game changer. Children who once lived in fear could line up at schools and clinics to get protected with a shot in the arm. Just a few years later, a second vaccine was developed by Dr. Albert Sabin. Sabin's creation was an oral polio vaccine, or OPV, using a live but a weakened virus. And it was delivered as drops in the mouth, famously on a sugar cube back then. First licensed in the 1960s, Sabin oral vaccine became the preferred tool for public health campaigns worldwide. It was easier to administer, so no needles were needed, just a couple of sugary drops on the tongue, and had a special advantage that the weakened virus could colonize in the gut and actually stop transmission of wild polio. In other words, the oral polio vaccine was not only protected the individual like Salk's shot did, but also created community immunity by preventing the virus from spreading person to person. The ease of giving the oral drops made it ideal for mass vaccination drives. Countries like Hungary began using OPV, so the oral version, in late 1959, and Czechoslovakia in early 1960 became the first country in the world to eliminate polio through nationwide immunization with Sabin's vaccine. By the late 1960s, polio vaccination had become routine in much of the world, slashing polio rates dramatically. It's worth noting how unprecedented the polio vaccine effort was at the time. In 1954, over 1.6 million children took part of the Salk's vaccine trials, the largest public health experiment in American history up to that point. This reflected desperation to beat polio. Okay, this is how desperate we all were.
Yes.
We needed to find a solution to this. And when the vaccine succeeded, its inventor, Jonas Salk, became a national hero overnight. Salk notably refused to patent his vaccine or profit from it, declaring the vaccine belonged to everyone. In a 1955 televised interview, when asked who owned the patent, he replied famously, "Well, the people. I would say, there is no patent. Could you patent the sun?" This man.
And here
Hero.
we are, years down the road, where they are constantly saying that physicians and scientists
money.
get paid for vaccinating.
This man could have, his whole lineage till now, even beyond, could have been wealthy beyond means just from his invention.
Because,
And
you know,
he chose-
God forbid that a doctor or a scientist can do something good for the world without benefiting from it.
Yeah.
Like, God forbid.
yeah, but business people can.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anyway, his goal was to maximize access, not income. A selfless act that sped up the distribution of the vaccine to all. 6 pharmaceutical companies were soon licensed to produce it, and the vaccine was made available at low or no cost, often funded by charity. One charming slice of vaccine history is Elvis Presley. He played a role in popularizing the polio shot. In October 1956, the 21-year-old rock and roll star rolled up his sleeves and got vaccinated on national TV. This happened on the Ed Sullivan Show. At the time, many American teenagers weren't getting the vaccine. Immunization rates among U.S. teens were an abysmal 0.6% in the late 1956, despite polio's dangers. Elvis's very public example had a stunning impact. Within 6 months, vaccination rates among American youth skyrocketed to about 80%. It was an early lesson that celebrity endorsement can save lives. Teens who idolized the king suddenly saw getting vaccinated as the cool and socially expected thing to do.
Yeah.
Which is like, that hasn't changed, unfortunately. But now it's like the opposite. It's like not getting vaccinated or whatever. So
I still don't know how we got here.
I really don't. Anyway, so marching towards eradication. With effective vaccines in hand, health experts turned their eyes toward a bold goal: global polio eradication. Polio once paralyzed over 1,000 children every single day across 125 countries. Eliminating it would be a monumental feat, achieved previously only for smallpox. Mass vaccination programs began making strides country by country. The Americas saw their first wild polio case in 1999, and it was from a 3-year-old boy in Peru, and were declared polio-free in 1994. Europe saw its last indigenous case in Turkey in 98 and was certified polio-free by 2002. One of the largest coordinated efforts was in Africa. In 1996, Nelson Mandela launched the Kick Polio Out of Africa campaign, leading to 420 million African children vaccinated that year during the National Immunization Days. This relentless push rid the African continent of wild polio by 2020. The whole African region was officially certified free of wild polio in August of 2020. A key milestone was the formation of the Global Polio Eradication Effort, or GPEI, in 1988, a partnership of WHO, UNICEF, CDC, Rotary International, and later the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and others. Back in 1988, polio was still raging in 125 countries. The world saw an estimated 350,000 cases per year. GPEI's efforts, national immunization days, door-to-door vaccine drops, surveillance systems have driven cases down over 99.9%.
I know.
In 2021, only 6 cases of wild polio were recorded worldwide, an astonishing drop. Of the 3 strains of wild polio, type 2 was declared eradicated in 1999 and type 3 in 2020. As of mid-2020s, only Pakistan and Afghanistan continue to see endemic wild polio transmission, wild type polio type 1 lingering in pockets of those countries. These last reservoirs are challenging due to conflict, remote populations, and at times dangerous misinformation about vaccines. In some areas, militant groups have targeted polio vaccinators, for example. The Pakistani Taliban spread false rumors that vaccination was a Western plot and have attacked health workers, forcing campaigns to operate under armed guard. Despite the risks, dedicated public health workers continued striving to reach every child, often in perilous conditions. A sobering fact is that until polio is eradicated everywhere, no country is truly safe. Polio virus knows no borders. It's in our interconnected world.
Yep.
An infected traveler could reintroduce it to a polio-free region.
Yeah.
Planes exist.
Yep.
And just look at
Travel is a thing.
Just look at a plane route, okay, from like Google Maps or whatever. There's a billion of them online. It is astonishing. It looks like a web all around the world. It's impossible.
Yep.
That's why the WHO has kept polio on the list of public health emergencies of international concern since 2014, urging countries to maintain safeguards. It only takes a small drop in vaccination coverage of an undetected chain of transmission for polio to resurface. Health authorities stress that maintaining high immunity through vaccination is essential to keeping polio dead, even if it's eliminated in that area.
So let's talk a little bit about what's happening with polio in today's day. There's ongoing vigilance and a lot of actual recent news on this. Even as wild polio approaches the brink of extinction, outbreaks still occur, often due to vaccine-derived polio virus in under-immunized communities. This sounds counterintuitive, so let's explain. The oral polio vaccine uses a live attenuated, so a weakened virus, still live, just weakened virus, which is supposed to mount a stronger immune response. In rare instances, if it spreads in areas of low vaccination, that attenuated virus can mutate back towards a harmful paralytic form. These are not the wild strains, but they can cause polio disease in places where vaccine coverage is poor. In recent years, the world has seen circulating vaccine-derived polio virus outbreaks, especially of type 2, which is in parts of Africa and Asia. In response, scientists have developed a new and improved oral vaccine called the NOPV2, designed to be more genetically stable. Now, this novel OPV, or oral polio virus, has about an 80% lower risk of reverting to dangerous form compared to the older vaccine, and it's now being used safely to combat those vaccine-derived outbreaks. Several recent events have put polio back in the headlines, underscoring the need to finish the job. In 2022, an unvaccinated young adult in Rockland County, New York, was diagnosed with a paralytic polio. This is the first U.S. polio case in nearly a decade. Genetic analysis showed it to be a vaccine-derived polio type 2, not the wild type, and that it had been silently spreading. The related virus was found in the wastewater samples from neighboring New York counties. The patient developed acute flaccid paralysis in the legs and had no recent travel indicating a local transmission in New York. This prompted the emergency vaccination campaign in that area, and it was a startling reminder that although the Americas have been polio-free since 1994, pockets of low immunization can still spark an outbreak if the virus is reintroduced. The last U.S. polio outbreak before that was actually in 2005, which also was sparked by a vaccine-derived strain in an under-vaccinated community. In 2022, in London, routine sewage surveillance detected poliovirus in multiple samples across North and East London. And this hadn't happened in the UK for decades. Investigations revealed as spreading vaccine-derived polio type 2, likely originating from someone who had received the oral polio virus abroad and then shed the virus locally. No paralytic polio cases were reported in the UK, but health authorities responded swiftly. Out of caution, booster polio vaccinations were offered to all London children under 10 to raise the immunity in the community. The UK, which saw its last wild polio case in 1984 and was certified polio-free in 2003, remains polio-free, but this incident showed how vigilance through environmental monitoring can catch lurking threats before anyone gets hurt.
And the reason why they did oral polio virus is because it was easier
to distribute and administer. It was for these campaigns, it was a lot easier. But really, if you go to your pediatrician's office, you're actually getting the IPV, which is the inactivated polio virus, and not the oral polio virus. However, there's still parts of the world where they do oral polio.
Because it's easier.
Yes.
It's not a shot that requires it to be sterile and all these, it just requires a lot more, you know, careful. It's just easier to transport, easier for all like the, what's the word, logistics to give in a larger amounts in underdeserved, or what is it? No.
Underserved. You don't deserve it.
God. Underserved areas of the world. So it's just easier like that. And hence why it was different. And then now, unfortunately, we're finding this. But if we continue with the vaccinations, then this wouldn't even happen.
Yeah. And on a positive note, Africa's recent polio scares have been met with strong responses. In February 2022, a 3-year-old girl in Malawi was paralyzed with wild type polio, which was the first wild strain case in Africa in over 5 years. Genetic tracing confirmed that the virus was actually from Pakistan. Again, talking about travel. An immediate multi-country vaccination blitz was launched, and by mid-2023, health officials announced that the outbreak was halted after only a handful of cases in Malawi and neighboring Mozambique. I'm saying that right, Mozambique.
Yeah, I would say it like that.
Crucially, this imported case did not cost Africa its wild polio-free certification. That status refers to indigenous wild virus, but it was a test of their response system, one that ultimately succeeded in preventing a wider spread of that. Now, as of 2025, polio experts emphasize that we are so close to eradication.
So close.
But also acknowledge that the last mile is the hardest. Conflict zones, remote or transient populations, the vaccine hesitancy continues to be hurdles. And we're in the last mile. The COVID-19 pandemic disrupted some of these vaccination campaigns, causing immunity gaps in fewer regions. Nonetheless, the polio eradication program continues to adapt, from using satellite mapping to finding missed children, to negotiating ceasefires for vaccination days, to engaging local leaders to build trust in the vaccines. If we can finish the job, the polio virus could become only the second human disease after smallpox to be wiped off the planet. Health officials warn that if failure to eradicate polio, it could allow it to resurge quickly. By one estimate, within 10 years, we could see 200,000 new cases annually if efforts are delayed. Again, this just goes to show that we are so close to eliminating such a terrible, terrible disease, and now we're just going back.
You know what's sad? That it's taken so many years to get this close to eradication. This close to being like smallpox, that it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And then yet we're only going to go backwards on it. And then it's so quickly able to come right back to how it was in the 50s.
Yeah.
It's easier for it to come back to the way that it was. What's the word? Like it was in the, not pandemic, like how it was in 1952, that it was like the pandemic year, or it was the...
No, it was the polio...
Epidemic?
Yeah, it was like a polio epidemic, because it was like one of the worst years.
So like, it's so easier. It's so much easier for it to like get back so much quicker for it to come back as an epidemic than it is for it to be eradicated all these years that it's taken us to get to there.
Yes. And we're talking about a lot of effort, vaccine campaigns.
People risking their lives
Yep.
to go into conflict zones to give vaccines. And now they're being honestly like spit at.
Yeah.
By, you know.
It is.
So
and like
angry.
in the most terrible ways too. Like,
exactly.
Oh yeah, you just get paid. Like coming from a place
a lot of these
where...
people are volunteers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's a slap in the face to say that to someone that literally risks their lives to go into a war zone to give these vaccines.
Yep.
Please tell me what benefit they have.
And a lot of them don't get paid for it. It's just volunteers. All right. So talking about some surprising facts about polio. Polio is actually an ancient disease. Polio is not just this modern disease that people are talking about vaccinating against and all that. It's actually been around for millennia. An Egyptian carving.
An Egyptian carving. We are back to the Egyptians.
An Egyptian carving from around 1400 BC shows a priest with a telltale withered leg and cane, suggesting poliomyelitis. And it existed in the ancient times. In 1789, British doctor Michael Underwood provided the first medical description of the disease, and he called it a debility of the lower extremities.
Yeah.
Franklin D. Roosevelt, he was a polio patient. One of the most,
I think he's like one of the most recognized.
Exactly. He's one of the most prominent polio survivors, and he was the U.S. president. FDR contracted polio in 1921 at age 39, leaving him permanently paralyzed from the waist down. He went to great lengths to hide his paralysis from the public, but his experience drove him to help others. In 1938, Roosevelt founded the March of Dimes. It's the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis to fund polio research and patient care. The March of Dimes mobilized millions of Americans in the fight against polio and ultimately funded Jonas Salk's vaccine work.
Yes.
Which was
Which, if you haven't been part of the March of Dimes, I highly recommend. It is such a good way to support this kind of research, and it's so important. Again, it's not just about going out there and getting vaccinated. It's also about supporting the really hard work that others do behind the scenes to make this as accessible as possible.
Absolutely.
So participate in March of Dimes if you haven't already.
And then the iron lung legacy. The iron lung symbolized the polio era. And it's true, because anytime you see one of those photos on anywhere, on socials or whatever, you immediately think polio, when you see the iron lung. So at the height of the 1950s outbreaks, these machines were mass produced and filled hospital wards. So by 1959, around 1,200 Americans relied, like I had said, on these iron lungs to just survive this paralysis. But these room-sized cylinders were expensive. They were about $1,000, and that's $1,000 in the 1930s.
Yep.
That's a lot of money now. How much is that now? Chad. Come in, Chad. How much is $1,000 today from the 1930s? Oh, that's a difficult question, I guess. Calculating inflation adjusted value. Come on, calculate faster. According to Dollar Times, it is from 1930s, right? So let's just say 1930, $1,000 is equivalent to 19,344 in today's money. Okay. And they needed to be mass produced because of how many people were getting them. All right.
Yes. Remember, these were wards, right? That had all of these iron lungs.
That's a lot of freaking money.
It's just so scary. Like, it's incredibly profoundly impact that you can have when you walk into a room and it's just rows of those cylinders, iron lungs with children in them and families next to them. It's I don't know, the Spanish word is impresionante. Like,
it's impressive.
Yes, but I feel like the Spanish word is
shocking.
It's like shocking, exactly.
Yeah. It definitely is. These room-sized metal cylinders, like I said, were expensive. In today's money, like close to 20 grand each. And they were clunky, but they worked, okay? Amazingly, due to polio's near eradication, only 3 iron lung users remained in the U.S. by 2017. The few polio survivors who still use them have done so for over 60 years. A testament to both the device's durability and the era it came from.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about polio's role in modern rehab. Polio's aftermath spurred advances in rehab medicine, and the need to help victims walk and function again led to innovations like specialized physical therapy regimens, better leg braces, electric wheelchairs, and orthopedic surgery techniques. Communities also became more accessible. For example, early adoption of the wheelchair ramps and elevators, and in part, it was due to polio survivors. In this way, the fight against polio helped pave the way for disability rights movement decades later. In this way, the fight against polio helped pave the way for the disability rights movement decades later. Now we're going to kind of talk about how this could be like a summer plague and kind of a cleanliness paradox.
It's not just about being clean. Like some people are like, oh, because it's touch to touch or whatever. So just like,
Or like clean water. Like, have you seen a child? Like a child literally has their hand in their diaper and then it goes and like will touch your face.
it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Like, oh no, I don't need to get him vaccinated. I'll just like make sure that,
But
you
you're
know,
the first
little
person
Johnny
taking them
is.
to a splash pad where the kids have like diapers on and stuff, and it's just I can't.
It just
people
anyway.
don't
So
connect those dots.
hence the section. Go ahead.
So polio was often called the summer plague as outbreaks in hot weather, and children were kept away from public schools, movie theaters, and crowds during summers of major epidemics. Now, interestingly, polio became more prevalent in the 20th century as sanitation improves. In earlier times, most people were exposed as infants when still partially protected by maternal antibodies, so severe polio was rare. As water and hygiene got better, babies no longer encountered poliovirus early, and later in childhood, they lacked that early protection, leading to a larger outbreaks in cleaner communities. So again, you didn't get that immunization earlier. Even as you were older, even though things were cleaner in the communities, you still were at risk.
Yep.
So in short, paradoxically, a cleaner environment made populations more vulnerable until vaccinations broke the cycle. Again, until you have that protection. Okay. Now, polio's story is ultimately one of scientific triumph, tempered by the need for persistence. From terrifying parents in the 1950s to inspiring a massive global vaccination effort, polio has shaped public health history. It taught us about the importance of vaccines, the power of collective action, example, March of Dimes, okay, and the vigilance required to finish what we started. And with continued effort, polio will soon join smallpox in the realm of eradicated diseases, and future generations may only learn about it in history books
Or
podcasts.
Why did I go like this?
Now, for now, it's
Yeah.
a legacy that lives on as a reminder of how far we've come in safeguarding the health of every single child in our communities. At the end of the day, we should not revert.
No.
We need to keep moving forward.
Today's climate with medicine and science, it seems to want to record, like the trend at least.
Because
wants
of
to-
misinformation
Exactly.
and people fear-mongering the hell out of our community.
It's regressing instead of progressing.
I want people to just take this food for thought.
Yeah.
Would you prefer being feared by the polio, the actual disease, by seeing your child with paralysis, thinking about the iron lungs, knowing how they can live with this for the rest of their life? Would you prefer that fear or listen to some person that has no medical background, no research to back up what they're saying, into convincing you to not get that protection from this disease? Take that for
Yeah.
a minute and really think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just look at this. Look at all this research. Get all of our resources and fact check us.
Go ahead.
You know, we
Go
post
ahead.
everything.
All
And
the
again,
sources are linked.
We don't
under the
make
YouTube.
money.
Nope.
We don't make money.
Wish we could.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day we will. Sponsors out there, come on. Anyway, but go ahead and look at all the sources. Every single one is fact checked by me more than once. And you could easily access them. They are all listed right under this YouTube version, because on the audio, I have less available space to list them on audio versions. But if you go to YouTube, it's easy. Publicly out there. You don't have to pay for this. Nowhere. None of these episodes. Go to the description on YouTube for this episode and any episode that we have ever published. They are all listed down there, and I've made sure that each of them you could easily open them. So they're not hidden behind something or whatever. No, each of them you could click on them and search for it and open it and read on your own.
Yes, and beware of the skeptics. There will be people out there
yeah.
saying that all of this research and data is manipulated.
Oh, boy.
You cannot manipulate results from science.
Yeah.
You cannot manipulate it. You can misinterpret it if you don't read correctly. You can misunderstand it if you don't understand it correctly.
This
and
is
if you
history.
don't, yeah, and if you don't have any knowledge on how to read a research paper, which a lot of the skeptics don't,
It's hard.
then you're going to go down this rabbit hole. But look at the numbers, look at the data,
Yeah.
look at credible sources.
Mm-hmm.
This was a huge epidemic,
Yeah.
and that a complicated process through a scientist,
Yeah.
we were able to create a vaccination that saved so many lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And here we are again. I can't believe that down the line, I just can't imagine what these people would be saying
I
in
know.
today's world.
These parents that were terrified of letting their kids out.
Which are
to-
probably not alive. These parents are probably
No.
not alive to see what's going on.
Yeah, it's been too many years. And they were terrified of letting their kids go to a playground because they rather just keep them isolated at home.
Yep. These are like the great grandparents.
Yeah.
So your great grandparent would probably say you're crazy for not vaccinating.
Well, I know a polio survivor, and he survived polio. He got it, survived it, and luckily for him, whatever strain it is that he got, he didn't need to go to the iron lung, but he did go to the hospital because he was suffering weird complications from it or whatever. It was really,
There's
really
many patients
high-
that I had as a medical student that had needing walkers and
Exactly.
assistive devices from polio.
Exactly. Well, he went ahead and he didn't need an iron lung, but there was one morning that after him having contracted polio, we had said earlier, one morning after a couple of days of, he had
Flu like
polio,
illnesses, yeah.
paralyzed from the waist down. He was paralyzed from the waist down, and he said it. He's like, my dad, he's an older person. He's like in his late 70s right now. He's like, my dad would touch my feet, the bottom of my feet, and I couldn't feel anything.
Can you imagine waking up and not
I
being able
can't
to do that?
even. So obviously his parents took him to the hospital, and he says that he still remembers going through that polio ward because obviously the doctors were like, yeah, he's got polio. Ran him through the polio ward. He's like, it's a scene that I will never forget of all of these iron lungs surrounding me and all these people in these iron lungs with their families and all that stuff. And he's like, I hope I don't need to, I hope that this doesn't progress for me to like have to land into one of them.
It's crazy.
He's like, I saw kids that were my age in an iron lung as I was bypassing them. And I felt guilty because they were in an iron lung and I just didn't have sensation in my legs. So with supportive care and all that stuff and whatever, he managed to like, after a long time, he's like, I was in the hospital for a long time.
So scary.
After all, like for a while, he was in the hospital, he was able to regain his feelings from the waist down. And then he had to go through PT to learn how to walk and everything. That's how long he was in the hospital for that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, do you want to risk your kid going through that? It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. And you could find polio survivors out there. Like this gentleman that I'm talking about right now, he's a friend of our family. He's an actual polio survivor. He'll told me the story firsthand. If you don't believe all the science and all the stuff that's out there, you could find a polio survivor.
Mm-hmm.
They're still out there. So, yeah, the choice is yours. Ultimately, that's the ultimate thing. But yeah.
And at the end of the day, we can only educate.
Yep.
And
Yep.
hope that, I mean, I take it as a win if this podcast changes the mind of one person.
Of at least one person, or at least opens your thought process to want to learn more.
Learn more and maybe be a little bit more skeptical of what other people are saying.
Exactly. That's a win.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, that was polio.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it is a very interesting topic nonetheless, regardless of everything. It is an interesting just history lesson as well. Anyway, so go ahead and subscribe, comment, do all the things. I'm doing all the like the YouTuber thing. Do all of those things. Really appreciate all the engagement and find us through forms of social media. We're pretty much everywhere.
Yes.
Evie has now joined, so find her there too. And yeah, we're here every Tuesday with a new episode. So hit that subscribe button so you could not miss a beat. And if you're not about social media and all that, go ahead and find us on email, funnymedicine305@gmail.com. And we'll see you on the next one on Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye.